In this video, I'm going to show you how to change a quadratic from standard form to vertex form by completing the square. And this is going to cover examples where a is 1. So standard form of a quadratic is y is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c. And vertex form is y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. And from vertex form, we can find the vertex. So that's why we want to change it to vertex form. So I am going to start with an example. Y is equal to x squared plus 8x minus 3. All right, so if I wanted to put this quadratic that's in standard form into vertex form, the first thing I'm going to do is move this negative 3 to the other side by adding it, and that would make it a positive 3 when it moves over. Now, a lot of people do this different ways. Some people keep it there and just scoot it out of the way. I like to just move it to the other side while I'm working. So then I'm going to do the same quadratic but plus blank. Our goal here is to really get this to be two factors where it's something times itself so that we could write it as one factor squared. That's really the ultimate goal, so that it will look like x minus h squared up here at the top. So the way we do that is if something can be written as something times itself, then the number would have to be the same. And the middle number we get by a number plus itself. So that would have to be x plus 4 times x plus 4. Now maybe the number isn't so obvious, and so the way we can find this number every time is by doing b over 2. So if I take b over 2, b is my 8 here, and divide it by 2, I will get 4. And this number, b over 2, is always what's going to go right here, okay? So let me go ahead and put that down. Now the number that goes in the blank is going to be the c value that would be created if you had distributed this whole thing, okay? So if I had distributed that whole thing, the constant on the end, that c value, would come from 4 times 4, which would be 16. And so if you're just wanting to just know the steps, where does that number come from? Where does this number come from? You take b over 2 and you square it. So I'm going to square 4, which gives me 16. Now we can't just go adding things to an equation like that. You can't add something to one side and not the other. So I would have needed to add it here as well. And that would have left me with y plus 19 is equal to x plus 4 times x plus 4. And again, I rewrote that right side as just one factor squared, because if it's x plus 4 times itself, I can write that as x plus 4 squared. The last step here is to move this 19 back over, and when we move something across the equal sign, it changes signs, because really what we did is subtract it from both sides. I used inverse operations, which would be take away 19. And so if I had shown that work here, it would have looked like this. Take away 19 would have canceled, take away 19. And so I'm left with vertex form. If I wanted to find the vertex, it would be opposite hk, opposite the inside, which is negative 4, and you keep the outside number the same. All right, let's do another example where the b value is not so nice. All right, so let's say I give you example 2, y equals x squared minus 7x plus 1. So my first step is I'm going to move that 1 over. It's going to become negative since it was positive. It moved. I just subtracted it from both sides. And then I'm going to leave a blank because I want that perfect value. Now, I'm looking for what number plus itself is the middle, negative 7. And I can find that by doing b over 2. And 7 over 2 is just 7 halves. Or since this is a terminating decimal, you could write it as 3.5. Terminating means the decimal ends. We don't want to use decimals if we have to round them. We'd rather just keep it as a fraction. But since this one ends, I will go with that. So my parentheses would be x plus, not positive 3.5. I forgot it was a negative 7. And so I'm going to have negative 3.5. And x minus 3.5 would give me that minus 7x in the middle. To find that c value that's going to go in my blank, I do b over 2 squared. So I'm doing negative 3.5 squared, and I'm going to quickly type that into the calculator, and that gives me positive 12.25. This value will always be positive because you're multiplying a negative by itself or squaring it. So I'm going to add that to both sides because you can't just go adding random things to equations. And so from here, I'm going to simplify negative 1 plus 12.25. I'm left with y. Let me go ahead and put it right here. Y plus 11.25. And then my last step is to rewrite. So I'm going to write this as x minus 3.5 squared because I can write it as one factor squared. And I'm going to move this back over by subtracting it. And you don't really have to show this step if you know that if it crosses the equal sign, it'll change its sign. And that's my vertex form. My vertex would be positive 3.5, negative 11.25.